All right, everyone, we have a lot to cover today and want to be sure that we have time to address any questions that come up. So I'm going to go ahead and dive in. Hello, happy Tuesday. Welcome to our comprehensive background check process or for childcare providers or CBC technical assistance session. My name is Piper Novicki and I will be your host and your presenter today. Before we get started, have a brief agenda for you. In just a moment, I will be passing it over to Patty Burns-Zelenki from OCFS to get us started out and welcome us this afternoon. Also wanted to go over a bit of housekeeping. We do encourage questions throughout our technical assistance session today. Please put all of your questions into the Q&A box, and we will wait until the end of today's presentation to answer any questions. Once you put a question in, you will only be able to see your questions until a question is answered. Then it will become available to all. After Patty's welcome, we're going to talk about the comprehensive background check process. And today I'm going to highlight some changes that are coming your way this week. We'll then talk a little bit about renewals and I will wrap up our TA session today with all of your Q&A. And now I'm going to pass it over to Patty to welcome us this afternoon.
Welcome and thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come to this technical assistance session. Today we are going to be covering comprehensive background checks, CBCs for new staff, and CBC renewals for staff that are already CBC approved. We are going to be showing you some of the new enhancements in the facility application and management system that will be implemented within the next few weeks. Being a childcare provider is next few days, sorry. Being a childcare provider is running a business. And OCFS is actively working on providing you with tools to assist you with maintaining your regulatory obligations through FAMS. OCFS has put a lot of time and effort into building up FAMS so that we can give providers and applicants the tools they need to effectively and efficiently manage their facilities application, program information, and staff clearances. Providers are expected to enter all initial applications, staff clearances, and role approval through FAMS. Daycare centers and SACs and home-based providers who completed their initial application through FAMS can currently maintain their program information in FAMS. Daycare centers and SACs are able to complete their renewal applications if they've gone through conversion. All of these functions will be available for all providers, including home-based in the near future. FAMS is an up-to-date and transparent process flow between providers and regulators. Today, we are focusing on maintaining staff clearances and CBC renewals through FAMS and appreciate everyone taking time out of their busy schedule to listen and ask questions. Back to you, Piper.
Thank you so much, Patty, for that wonderful welcome. All right, so let's dig in and start talking about the comprehensive background check process. So the facility application and management system, known to all of you as FAMS, and that's how I will be referring to it for the rest of today's presentation, allows you to complete and submit comprehensive online background checks. As Patty just mentioned, OCFS does expect all programs to use FAM for both the submission and completion of the CBC. Before we get started talking about FAMS and the CBC, it is important to note that OCFS does strongly recommend clearing your web browser cache and history prior to logging into FAMS. So the cache is a set of temporary files that your browser downloads to speed up loading web pages and websites you've already visited, which can be great, but we have found that some users do have trouble logging in due to their web browser automatically filling in those usernames and passwords. This can also cause performance problems and inaccuracies in the my.ny.gov system, which is what you will all use to access FAMS. So do be sure to clear your web browser and history before you access FAMS. You could also use a private or incognito browser. And if you don't know how to do that, if I'm talking a foreign language to you, I'm gonna, at the end of today's presentation, I am going to show you our help site, which has guides on how to do this. Now you may notice these two icons here. On the left is our Google Chrome icon, and on the right is our Microsoft Edge icon. These are the preferred browsers to use when accessing FAMS. How to access FAMS. So to access FAMS, you're going to log in using your my.ny.gov account. If you have never logged into FAMS, please do reach out to your regulator. They will initiate an email to you. This email will be unique to you. Do not share it. Do not forward it. Click the link in it to access FAMS. It will ask you if you already have a my.ny.gov account. If you do have a my.ny.gov account, you'll simply enter your username and password and click sign in. If you do not have an account, you will be prompted to create one. And I'm sure many of you are going, I have a lot of usernames and passwords. I'm not sure if I have an account. If that's the case, then you'll simply come to my.ny.gov and select the forgot username link here. You'll enter your email and this will provide you your username. If you have forgotten your password, there's this forgot your password link, and then you can also create an account with this create an account link. Once your account is confirmed, you can then return to FAMS and log in. We also in today's TA session wanted to remind you or make you aware of multi-factor authentication, also referred to as MFA. This is an additional security step in addition to a password where a code is sent to your mobile device or a landline phone. You might use this to say access your online banking. Note that this process is required by New York State and the code does need to be entered before you can finish logging in to your ny.gov account. And we're briefly going to go over the steps how to set this up because if you are new to FAMS or you haven't accessed FAMS in a while, you will be prompted to set up MFA. So the first thing that's going to happen is you'll enter your ny.gov username and password. You'll then select the name of the application you would like to use, and you're going to be brought to a page that looks like this. Here is where you will select your MFA or multi-factor authentication method. New York State does recommend SMS authentication or voice call authentication. SMS means that a single use code will be sent to your mobile device, and voice call authentication uses a phone to authenticate. So that code will be delivered via a voice message to a mobile phone or a landline phone. When selecting your MFA method, always be sure you set up MFA on a device that you will always have access to. So if you always have your mobile device near you when you'll be accessing FAMS, then you could do either of these. If you'll always have access to a landline phone when accessing FAMS, then feel free to choose that voice call authentication. This is important because you will need to authenticate every single time you access FAMS. Super quick process. I do it all the time. It doesn't add any time. It adds a very short amount of time to accessing FAMS and seamless and quick. Once you have set this up, you can change it if need be. But what happens is once this is set up, you will log in using your my.ny.gov username and password. You'll then get a screen that looks like this on the left that says send code. You'll click that send code button and that code will be sent to the device and in the method you have chosen. You'll then enter that code right here and select verify, and this will bring you in to FAMS. After you log into FAMS, it's going to open to your program's dashboard. Uh, and the first thing you'll want to do when starting a CBC is find the facility or program that you will be entering background check information for. There are two ways to do that. You can click My Programs in the top right, or simply scroll down the page to view your programs. Many of you will only have access to one program. Some of you may have access to multiple, and these are tied to the user that is logged in to the system. After finding your program, click on the facility ID or the program name. And what you're doing is you're getting yourself to the facility dashboard. And here's what your facility dashboard will look like. You'll see many options here, but the option we're going to be talking about today is background checks. And you'll access background checks by going to the top menu bar and selecting either staff list or add a person. As Patty just mentioned a few minutes ago, in today's technical assistance session, we are going to be talking about enhancements coming your way within the next couple of days. So you may have heard about these, about enhancements that were coming. Well, they will be coming very, very soon. You'll receive communication when they are live. And the first enhancement to FAMS that we wanted to tell you about is this add person option under background checks. Now, I do want to make it clear that these enhancements and what I'm about to show you is not live in FAMS yet. So if you do need to add a fingerprinted person, somebody that's been CBC cleared to your program today or tomorrow, you will follow the normal process. But a little bit later this week, once you see add a person, the process for adding a person to your program is going to change. So here's a peek at what is coming your way. Before you send a new staff to get fingerprinted for their CBC, you should determine if the person may already have been fingerprinted or received CBC approval and is in the system. This would be an instance potentially when somebody is coming from another child care program. And what you can do is once the individual has been fingerprinted, their fingerprints can be associated or added or matched to your program. Please note that a CBC approval is valid for up to 5 years unless there is a break in employment from working in any program for more than 180 days. So if an individual, say, stopped working in childcare in June of 2024, went on to another field and wanted to rejoin working at a childcare facility, they would need to go through this process again. What you can do if an individual has been CBC cleared is you can go to this background checks option, click add a person, and this brings you to a page where you can search for a person with active fingerprints. And what you'll do here is you will enter the required information. So you'll enter anything with a star or asterisk next to it. One of these required fields is the previous facility ID. So they're looking for the ID that the individual previously worked at. If you are unsure what that facility ID is, you'll click this blue link right here, and this will allow you to search for childcare facilities in New York State. Once you have entered all of this information, click the search bar. Next, you will select the person you wish to add to your program from the People Search Results section right here. Then you will add the role for the person you're adding. Keep in mind that the options available in the roles drop-down menu will vary depending on your modality. So what you see here will differ depending on the modality of your program. When you're ready, you'll click this submit button. And this person will now be added to the add person processing section. And as you see here, their status reads pending. This means that behind the scenes, the system is adding this fingerprinted individual to your program. Once processing is complete, they'll be added to your active staff list. Keep in mind that this process may take up to 30 minutes, but don't worry, you do not have to stay on this page. You can go and enter information for somebody else or navigate to a different page. This will all happen behind the scenes, and you don't need to stay on this page here. You do have the option to cancel your request if desired by selecting the cancel request button here on the far right. This must be done before the processing is completed, though. So you would have to do this while the individual is in the pending state, and then you can cancel that request with the cancel option. If you have tried to add a fingerprinted person to your program, so you've entered all of their information, click search, and nothing comes up in the search results, do make sure that everything that you have provided is correct. And then if there are still no search results, the person most likely needs to be fingerprinted. So you can select this obtained fingerprints link to learn how to get fingerprints for this individual. And as a reminder, this process is coming later this week. So if you do need to add somebody to your facility today, you will go through the request a waiver process. But coming in the future, you will be able to match those fingerprints yourself. Now on to your staff list. So we're going to talk about your staff list and some changes there, and then we're going to talk about the CBC process, and I'll highlight some enhancements coming your way. To access your staff list, you'll go to the background checks menu at the top, and this time you'll select the staff list. This will bring you to your staff list. And what this does is it shows you everybody in your program who has been CBC approved or is going through the CBC process and where they stand in that process. And what's so nice about this is that it gives you immediate insight into the status of all of your staff. And instead of waiting to hear back from your regulator after mailing a packet through the mail, you will know right away the status of CBC related items. Some important things to point out here. You can search for a staff member by name. You can sort by their role and or clearance. And any column you see here below with these arrows, I know they're a little hard to see on this PowerPoint, but any of these arrows means that you can sort this in ascending or descending order, these columns. You can also, from your staff list, permanently remove a person. So this is another enhancement that is going to be coming soon. So the process is right now, you would click the remove option here, you would end date that individual, and then your regulator would be the one to expunge them. This enhancement coming your way very soon now allows you, the program, to permanently remove or expunge a person from your staff list. So what you'll do is you'll come to this staff list here. You'll go to the last column on the right and you will select the remove link. The role maintenance tab will open and you'll enter the date the person ended their employment with your program in the end date field, as you see right here. A confirmation window is going to open. Please be sure that you want to remove this person from your program. If you remove this person, it will terminate this person's approval to work in your program and may sever their CBC status. Read this confirmation box. If you want to continue, select continue. If you do not want to remove this person, select cancel. After selecting continue, you will then choose from a drop-down menu the reason that this individual is being end dated / expunged. You'll then, the date expunged and expunged by will be pre-populated with your name and the current date. As you see here, please note that you cannot end date a key role. This must be done by your regulator. And key roles, just to remind all of you, are our board member and manager, business contact, the director, the sole proprietor, and on-site provider. These roles can only be end dated by your regulator, so please do reach out to them for assistance. And conveniently, your regulator's information is listed at the bottom of this page. You'll see their phone and email there, and you can contact them if needed. On to the CBC overview here. So on-site providers, assistants, substitutes, Household members over age 18, employees and volunteers are required to complete a comprehensive background check. There are two steps to this process. The first step is the individual must go get fingerprinted. When they appear on your active staff list, you can then enter their 6,000 packet in FAMS. So we're going to go through this process, and as we do, I won't be going through the entire process in detail. I'm going to show you, as I mentioned, at the end of our technical assistance session, I'll show you our support site, which has lots of great information and goes through each of the tabs for you. But what I am going to do is give you a basic overview and then point out some areas and some information that is changing with this upcoming release. So what you're going to want to do first is you're going to select the individual from your list who has been fingerprinted. Now, since this person has been fingerprinted, the information on the staff information tab, as you see here, will be pre-populated. Please be sure to verify that all information matches the paperwork and is still correct. Maybe they moved addresses or got a new phone number or something. Make sure that 6,000 packet that they have given you, the information in that packet matches what you see here. If you need to change information, you are welcome to do so. Please, in fact, do so. At the top of this page, you're going to see a question here. It says, do you have all the required information/forms needed to process this person's clearances? Only select yes if you have the completed 6,000 packet from that individual. Once you select yes, you have 45 days to complete the CBC. So as a reminder, if you don't have that 6,000 packet, please wait to select yes until you do. Once you select yes and you have that 6,000 packet in hand, all the tabs needed to complete the CBC will populate for you. And next, what you'll do is you'll enter the appropriate information for each tab. As you move through the different tabs, note that fields marked with a red asterisk or star are required. Do be sure to save often using the Save Blue button at the bottom or the blue Save Floppy disk at the top. And you can click into these different tabs, which all correspond to the packet, the 6,000 packet the individual has provided you. And now I just wanted to point out one tab here that has changed with this upcoming enhancement. This is the SCR database check. So the process is the same if you're familiar with doing this, just the page looks a little different. So in the SCR database check tab, you're first going to select the OCS terms and conditions link. You will then read the required information and you will then attest you have read that information by selecting the box right here. Your name will appear next to attested by and attested on. This only needs to be done once, and after that, it will always display here. Next, you're going to read the SCR online clearance system. Once you've reviewed that, pardon me, back up here. So once you've reviewed the terms and conditions, then the SCR online clearance system link will be available. You will select that link and then you should be automatically logged into the SCR online clearance system. We have seen some instances though we are not logged in automatically. If that happens, you just need to enter the username and password that you used when you logged into FAMS, so that my.ny.gov username and password. If you are experiencing any issues, just clear your web cache history in browser or use that incognito or private window. Next, that statewide central register database check will open, and in that system, you can then begin to process that database check request. And what's so nice about this, by doing it online, you will be able to pay with a credit/debit card, or you can have them automatically take funds from your bank account. There's no need to mail in a check. After you have, and only after you have completed this process, do be sure to check that you have attest that you have entered that information, and then the date will be pre-populated. It is really, really important that you do not attest to doing this until you have completed the process in the SCR online clearance system. If you attest that you entered the information, but you did not, your regulator will return your CBC as incomplete. So do complete the process and then attest that you have done so. When you are all set, you'll click the Save button. A little bit about provisional approval. So those of you with eagle eyes may have noticed when we looked at the active staff list that there is, when this release comes out, there will be a provisional approval column. So we want to talk about two different statuses today, and the first one is provisional approval. So this is the provisional approval. What it is has not changed. There's just now going to be what they call a flag for you all in the system, in the FAMS system. I'll show what that looks like. So provisional approval means that if an applicant has provided the required medical attestation and you have received their fingerprint check results with no criminal history, but you, as the facility or program, have not received their CBC approval letter yet, they are considered provisionally approved. When when an individual is provisionally approved, you will receive a letter saying that they are provisionally approved, and the applicant can work under provisional approval. What this means is they can work, but only as long as they are directly supervised at all times by a staff with an approved background clearance. And here's what this might look like in FAMS. So we have this individual here, we'll call her Wendy. Her roles are a pending assistant, pending employee. And as you see here, we have this provisional approval column right here, and there is a Y in that column to indicate that they are provisionally approved. If you would like to see the outstanding requirements, so what is still required for that CBC, you'll click on the outstanding requirements link here, and this will show you everything that needs to be complete. Provisional approval can happen anytime up until the CBC is approved, and you will not see a Y indicator here, that Y in this provisional approval column, if you attest to a new staff member's medical after the CBC has been accepted. Our next status is the under review status. So you'll see this in the current clearance status column. And what this means is that fingerprints and a completed 6,000 packet have been received, and the clearance is now being reviewed by the regulator. You'll see that clearance here under that current clearance status column. And what this means is that the applicant has now met their requirements. So you've entered in the required information for the CBC, and it's up to the regulator to review and finalize those clearances. Once the regulator has cleared the applicant will get an email or letter stating they are cleared, if they're cleared, and you as the program will also receive a letter, an email indicating this. Once that CBC has been submitted, you can now return to this individual CBC at any time. You can review, edit, and print information. And do be sure to check the staff list often for updates and clearances as they work their way through the electronic systems. Three FAQs. We'll then talk about renewals and then we'll get to your Q&As. So if you do have any questions, please pop those into the Q&A box for us. Our first question today is about keeping the paper 6000 forms. So as a program, do you need to keep these? Do you need to mail them to your regulator? If you do need to keep them, how long do you need to keep them for? If you complete the FAMS CBC process, that means you're doing the CBC process online, you only need to keep the forms that you do not upload into the system. You must keep all records relevant to the current licensing period and the immediately preceding licensing period. What do you do if you don't have access to FAMS? You're simply going to reach out to your regulator. They will send you an email, follow the instructions in that email, and do click that link. Yes, Carol. Carol asks, do renewals need to be fingerprinted as well? They sure do. And we're going to start talking about that in just a minute. And lastly, so some of you who used to complete paper CBCs, you needed a computer and a scanner to submit information. With FAMS, that is no longer necessary. You don't need a computer or scanner. FAMS is accessible on all mobile devices like tablets and mobile phones. You can take a picture with your mobile device and upload that into FAMS. All right, Carol, perfect segue. Thank you so much for being on today. We're going to talk about the CBC renewals process. In 2019, September to be exact, there was a federal and state law that became effective that required a background check for people in childcare programs, and an approved background check is valid for up to 5 years. OCFS and the Division of Criminal Justice Services, or DCJS, developed a schedule to start the renewal process for individual CBC clearances within 1 year of their current CBC expiring. And the purpose of this is to avoid overwhelming fingerprint sites and you as their providers. There are, let me just say, there are a ton of individuals that need to go through or needed to go through that renewals process. You add that on top of individuals going through the CBC process for the first time, and that's a whole lot of people. So starting in January of this year, it's been almost 1 year, OCFS began sending programs a monthly email listing people whose background check would expire in 364 days. So many of you have already seen these letters. Those who had a CBC expiring were notified via email if they had one in the system, or via letter if they did not have an email in FAMS, that they needed to be re-fingerprinted and complete a series of forms that are part of the renewal packet. Those forms are the criminal conviction statement, the SCRSEL, and out-of-state information. Ideally, they will do this within 2 weeks of receiving that notice. We do understand that in some cases that is not possible, so this is why they have about a year to do it, but the sooner the better. 5 things to keep in mind about this process. So Carol, re-fingerprinting is the only way to start the CBC renewal process. To renew a CBC, a person must first be re-fingerprinted. They'll then complete those forms, and they should do that within about 2 weeks of receiving their notice. Now, as a provider, you get a monthly email with anyone who has a CBC expiring within 1 year, and a person will stay on that list until they get re-fingerprinted and submit the required forms. So if my CBC expires on March, let's say 12th of 2025, I was notified in March of 2024 and I haven't done it yet, I would appear on your March, April, May, June, July, August, September, etc., a list, because I, as that staff member, have not done what is required of me. Once I do that, I'll fall off of that list. So what happens if an individual, if their CBC expires? They can continue to work at their role at your program, but if they fail to renew their CBC, their current approval does expire exactly at that 5-year mark. They can no longer continue in their current role. And as I'm sure you're all aware, this could impact a program's regulatory compliance. Numbers 4 and 5. So a person should not initiate the CBC renewal process until they are prompted to do so. They cannot get fingerprinted until they are 364 days out from their expiration. So if they go to Identigo and they're 380 days out, Identigo won't even let them make an appointment. And last but not least, if you get your monthly email and there's somebody on there that is no longer a part of your program, you can go into FAMS and end date them yourself, or you can always reach out to your regulator. Next up is the forms required. In the beginning, we got a lot of questions. People asked if all the CBC forms were required for renewals. They are not. There are only 4 forms. The out-of-state information is required if the individual has lived out of state within the last 5 years. Then that criminal conviction statement, the SEL and the SCR. And you'll see a little asterisk here next to the request for fingerprints and role maintenance. This is because fingerprinting is what drives this process, so they do need to get fingerprinted. If an individual receives an email notifying them that that their CBC is up for renewal in 364 days, there is a link in that email to this packet of forms. Also, as a provider in your monthly email, I'm going to show you an example in just a couple of minutes. You also have a link to that, and additionally, it's on our website, of course. On to the CBC renewals process. If you have done a regular CBC, this is going to be a breeze. 2 steps. That CBC approved individual gets their email or snail mail letter. They then go and get refingerprinted and complete the forms necessary. You, as the program, you're going to wait until that individual appears on your active staff list with a status of initiated fingerprints in the renewal clearance status column. Once you see that, you can then click on their name and complete the required information. And here's what that looks like. So we have employee C, we'll call them the third one on the list, so we'll call them employee C. They went out and got fingerprinted. You now see in your renewal clearance status column that they have that oh so important status of initiated fingerprints. So you'll simply click on their name. And now, as you see, you will go through these tabs, the required tabs, enter that information, and click submit. And that's the process. So pretty simple here. Once again, as a reminder, we do recommend that you have those forms in your hand from the individual before you go through this process. And out of state is only as needed. This would only be if they lived out of state within the last 5 years. 3 questions, and then we'll get to your FAQs. What determines the renewal date? So this could be a lot of things. It could be the date that the individual started working at your program, could be the date that they were cleared to work at your program. Maybe it's their birth date. It is actually their original fingerprint date. So that's what we're going by. So if they were originally fingerprinted on October 1st of 2020, then their expiration would be October 1st of 2025. Can I complete the CBC renewal in FAMS before the individual gets refingerprinted? We love your eagerness. However, you cannot complete any information until that individual gets refingerprinted. They must get refingerprinted, appear on your staff list, and then you are good to go. And our last frequently asked question is about the renewals letter in FAMS. So many of you may know this, but if you did not, when you log into FAMS, when you log into FAMS, and you go to your facility dashboard, if you select the facility drop-down menu, you'll see among the options here, provider CBC letters. This will be CBC letters sent to you. You will then see any letters will be in a table. You'll click the name of the letter you would like to view. This one happens to be a CBC expiration coming due provider letter. And once you click it, it will open up. And here is an example of that CBC checks due to expire letter. Has some great information in here, information to that renewals packet, a link to the Identical website, and also it will show you everyone who has a CBC expiration coming within 365 days or less. And as promised, I did want to make sure that you saw our great training resource and information center. The website is up here, but if you just go to ocfs.ny.gov/program/childcare, you'll see that background checks has its own option here on the left menu, and you'll go to training resource and information center. We have this great guide here, which is mobile friendly in English and Spanish, walks you through the entire process at your pace so you can dive in and out of things as needed. We also have instructional user guides, video tutorials, and additional help information. And we have some new resources coming later this week when those enhancements go live. And last but not least, here is that website again. We also have a fantastic mailbox for questions and support. So if your regulator is unable to answer a question for you, you are more than welcome to email this inbox, which is on this page here, and they'd be happy to assist you.